The night was silent until the screams began. Imagine walking into a forest and seeing thousands of men suspended in the air, their bodies twitching, their faces frozen in agony. Spears run through their stomachs and burst out their backs, their lives slowly draining away as the wind whistles through the trees. This was not a battlefield. It was Vlad the Impaler's message to the world. Vlad III of Wallachia, remembered in whispers as Vlad the Impaler, did not rely on walls or castles to protect his kingdom. He used terror. When enemies marched toward him, they often stopped dead in their tracks at the sight of fields littered with impaled corpses. Soldiers who thought they were fearless broke into panic. Kings who planned invasions suddenly reconsidered. But was this just cruelty, or was there a method behind the madness? Was Vlad a monster who enjoyed suffering, or a ruler who knew fear could be sharper than any sword? Tonight, we will step into one of the darkest chapters of human history, where power was not measured in armies but in how long screams could echo across the valleys of Wallachia. This is the story of the shocking tortures Vlad used on his enemies, methods so brutal that even centuries later, his name still strikes terror. To understand Vlad's cruelty, we must first understand the world he lived in. Born in 1431, Vlad was raised in a land caught between two giants, the powerful Ottoman Empire to the east and the rising influence of Hungary to the west. Wallachia, his homeland, was a small principality constantly threatened, invaded, and torn apart. Vlad's childhood was shaped by betrayal and blood. As a boy, he and his brother were taken hostage by the Ottomans to ensure their father's loyalty. In captivity, Vlad witnessed cruelty firsthand. He saw beatings, executions, and punishments that carved fear into the hearts of men. When he finally returned home, he carried with him not just memories but a philosophy. Survival required more than strength. It required terror. In his reign, Vlad faced treacherous nobles, foreign invaders, and internal rebellion. He ruled with an iron fist because he believed mercy was weakness. He saw enemies everywhere and concluded that fear was the only weapon that could keep him alive and his land free. Thus began his reign of torture, a reign so shocking it would immortalize him in history and legend, later inspiring the vampire myth of Dracula. The most infamous of Vlad's methods was impalement. Victims were stripped naked. A sharpened stake was forced through their body, sometimes through the abdomen, sometimes through the chest, and sometimes, most horrifyingly, through the lower body. The stake was raised upright and the victim was left to die slowly, sometimes for days. It was a death designed not just to kill, but to terrify all who saw it. When the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II sent an army into Wallachia, they were met not by soldiers but by a forest of the impaled. Tens of thousands of corpses lined the path, swaying in the wind, their bodies a grotesque warning. The sight was so horrifying that hardened warriors turned back, shaken to their core. But impalement was only the beginning. Vlad used boiling as punishment, throwing his captives into cauldrons of hot water or oil. He ordered thieves and beggars burned alive. Women accused of infidelity had their breasts cut off and were left to bleed, while their lovers were mutilated beside them. Nobles who betrayed him were forced to march barefoot for miles, then impaled as examples. Vlad did not just punish enemies. He punished his own people when they disobeyed. One legend tells of a golden cup placed at a public well. No one dared to steal it, for they knew the punishment would be death by torture. Fear became law and torture became justice. The horror of Vlad's reign cannot be measured only in numbers but in the silence that followed his acts. Imagine the peasants who walked past fields of impaled bodies, whispering prayers as they clutched their children's hands. Imagine the mothers who begged for mercy, knowing none would come. For them, every shadow carried dread. Every knock at the door might mean torture. To his enemies, Vlad was a demon in human form. To his people, he was both protector and tyrant. Some said he kept the land safe from foreign conquest. Others said he stained it with rivers of blood. His cruelty was so legendary that it carved a place in folklore, shaping him into a symbol of fear centuries before Bram Stoker wrote of Count Dracula. But behind the brutality lay a terrifying truth. Torture was not just sadism, it was strategy. By making examples of a few, Vlad controlled the many. His enemies hesitated, his people obeyed, and his legend spread farther than his armies could march. Fear itself became his fortress. Vlad the Impaler's tortures still echo through time, raising the same haunting question: Was he a madman drunk on blood? Or a ruler who did what was necessary to protect his fragile kingdom? Perhaps he was both. History paints him as a monster, yet some Romanians remember him as a leader who defended their land against impossible odds. His methods were merciless, but his enemies were powerful empires. To him, terror was not madness, it was survival. And yet when we look at the fields of impaled bodies, the boiling cauldrons, the mutilations, we are forced to ask, at what cost does survival come? How much cruelty can be justified in the name of power? The story of Vlad reminds us that fear can control nations, but it cannot outlive time. Today his name inspires horror rather than loyalty. His castle is a tourist site, his legend a warning. Perhaps the greatest lesson is this: leaders who rule by torture and fear may win battles, but they lose their humanity. And in the end, history remembers not their victories, but their cruelty. This was the shocking story of the tortures Vlad used on his enemies. If you found this journey through dark history powerful and haunting, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more untold stories from the shadows of the past.